3. A summary of Hegel's introduction to the phenomenology of spirit. Our first question is, what is the instrument view or Kantian view of knowledge? The opening paragraph tells us what it is. Quote, "It is a natural assumption," says Hegel, "that in philosophy, before we start to deal with its proper subject matter, namely the actual knowledge of what truly is, one must first of all come to an understanding about knowledge, which is regarded either as the instrument to get hold of the absolute or as the medium through which one discovers it. For the fear is that we might grasp clouds of error instead of the heaven of truth." End quote. Simply put, this instrument or Kantian view of knowledge assumes that knowledge and truth, being reality the absolute, are separated. Hence that knowledge of the truth, absolute science, is impossible. So, Hegel advises us that we simply do not take up this view. Instead, that we just take knowledge or consciousness as it offers itself. Indeed, consciousness knows something, and hence is already connected with reality. In Hegel's words, quote, "Consciousness at once distinguishes itself from something, and at the same time relates itself to it. Or as it is said, this something exists for consciousness." End quote. Thus the question is, what is this reality which consciousness knows and to which it is already connected? Hence our second question is, what is Hegel's method and plan in the phenomenology for reaching knowledge of reality? That is, absolute knowledge or science and its standpoint. In brief, Hegel will begin the phenomenology's inquiry into knowledge as it appears with the most elementary and immediate claim to knowledge. He will then, rather the candidate or shape itself, will then compare its concept of the object, which is called a criterion, with the object as actually experienced. If it is discovered that they do not correspond or agree, we are then forced of necessity to advance to a higher, truer shape of consciousness or knowledge, till we reach absolute knowledge, which is, quote, "the point where knowledge no longer needs to go beyond itself, where concept corresponds to object and object to concept. And thus, finally," says Hegel, "when consciousness grasps its own essence, this will signify the nature of absolute knowledge itself." End quote. Lastly and briefly, what is absolute knowledge or knowing? In a word, It is the unity of self and other, subject and object, knowing and being. The knowledge that, quote, there is only one consciousness, end quote. That consciousness or thought, aka the absolute concept, is reality. In Hegel's words, in absolute knowledge, quote, the difference of consciousness from the object is now overcome. And, quote, in knowing the object, I am knowing myself, and vice versa, end quote. And from the science of logic, quote, science presupposes that the opposition of consciousness to an object is overcome, end quote. Hence, as Hegel says, absolute knowledge signifies that history is now over. It must further be said, finally, that absolute knowledge is the ultimate, most incredible, and fulfilling experience imaginable, the very goal of creation and the raison d'etre of the universe's existence. As our scriptures state, quote, eye has not seen and ear has not heard what is coming on the scene, end quote. Absolute knowledge is in fact God or self or Jedi realization. Next time we will take up the Phenomenology's first division, A, consciousness. Thank you.